gives me creams to apply on his manhood and play with it.
He gives you cream?
Yes.
To apply on his manhood?
Yeah, to play with it. That is a hand job. Yes.
It's called a hand job?
Yes, it's called a hand job. At that time I was so young, I didn't know what I was doing. Because anytime I was doing that with him, he has been making funny noises. And it was weird to me. So we continue doing this. We do this all the time. And it went on for a very long time. Because I was young.
In some disio na asemo ewiase ya ba mu nsem akese audio ni nyina wa ha ye bebo na wonso anya bia tie na before se ye bebo no mama nka wo se ha Limpopo GA tie be sere so be subscribe na afi wa hit notification bell no so se de be new update bia nso no ba mesra be reche waso ye abuso ye se mrekran ye nko start audio no wa de benya abotre no so ye de ye tie ni nyina.
He gives me creams to apply on his manhood and play with it.
He gives you cream?
Yes.
To apply on his manhood?
Yeah, to play with it. That is a hand job. Yes.
It's called a hand job?
Yes, it's called a hand job. At that time I was so young, I didn't know what I was doing. Because anytime I was doing that with him, he has been making funny noises. And it was weird to me. So we continue doing this. We do this all the time. And it went on for a very long time because I was young. Then I got admission into the senior high school. I was a day student. And this time around, I had become a full-grown woman. I knew what was good and I knew what was bad. At this point, my father introduced me to pornography. He started watching pornographic videos with me.
Your father?
Yeah. He started watching pornographic videos with me. And then one day, eventually, we did it.
You did what?
My father had sex with me.
Your biological father?
Yes. So, we became sex partners, if I should say it that way. My father had been sleeping with me. And it got to a time, I became addicted to it. I was also enjoying it. We were both obsessed with each other and we were possessive. I get jealous anytime I see my father with another woman. My father is a church elder. So even if we go to church and I see him talking to other people, you know, females, I get jealous. I get so angry to the extent that we do get into fights when we get home. And he always assures me that, oh, I'm the only one.
Your father?
Yes. The same way my father also doesn't want any man coming close to me. If he sees any guy coming close to me, he gives them a stern warning and they stay away from me. We're having, you know, our usual escapades. It continued and then I got into the university and then I met a man. I met the man of my dreams. I met this guy that had everything that I wanted in a man. Physically, character, everything. So I fell in love with him. What even made me love him more was the fact that he was the only man who had come into my life and had not asked me for sex.
He was God-fearing?
Yes. To the extent that he even promised to wait till after marriage.
You accepted?
Yes.
Why?
Accepted because he's the only man who has not asked me for sex. And he has been nice to me, caring, providing for me, everything. So I accepted.
But I thought you said you had become addicted to sex.
Yes. But I was not bothered with the fact that he didn't want to have sex because my father was there.
Oh, I see.
Yes. So we were in the relationship and then it got to a time and he proposed. When I was in my final year, he proposed. So I took him to my father. My father accepted the guy. Initially, I thought my father would not agree since he doesn't like other men coming to me. But he agreed to the marriage. And when the guy left, he told me it's because the guy doesn't live here with us. The guy doesn't live in the country. He lives outside. He just comes and goes. So my father told me that is why he accepted the guy. Because he doesn't live here with us so we can have time to do our things. So after school, we got married. But then, the eve to my wedding, my father and I had sex.
Abusuanti, I don't know to say, and now started say, of course, not him say, girl, no be addicted to on any papa no na yemuni adia. Na and command what? Yes, and to us be
our things. So after school, we got married. But then, the eve to my wedding, my father and I had sex.
The eve to your wedding?
Yes. My father and I had sex and...
The eve to your wedding?
Yes.
That means the engagement ceremony had already been done?
Yes.
And you were married though? So it's just the wedding?
The white wedding.
The white wedding?
Yeah.
Your father has sex with you?
Yes. And he made me promise him that I was not going to abandon him or leave him because I've gotten married. That I was not going to stop sleeping with him because I've gotten married. I also promised him that I was not going to leave him, even though I'm married now. After all, my husband doesn't live here. After the wedding and honeymoon, my husband spent some time here with me, and then he went back. A few months later, I found out I was pregnant. I was happy. My husband was happy because finally our family is complete. At that time, I was staying with my father. I was in my father's house, a house that I supported him build after school because I got a good job. I got a good paying job. So I was staying with my father because my husband is not here. Even though he has built a house in Kumasi, I was able to convince him to stay with my father in Accra so that at least I have a relative around me. When I had my baby, a few weeks later, my father fell ill. And then I had to juggle work, taking care of my baby, at the same time taking care of my sick father. It was tedious, but I could handle it. It wasn't that serious since I didn't have much to do. So all this while, my husband has been coming and going. He comes like every 6 months, sometimes 3 months. When my baby was 1.5 years old, I found out I was pregnant again.
With the second child?
Yeah, with my second child. But unfortunately, I lost my dad at that time. I lost him a few days after I found out I was pregnant with my second child. So my husband came down for the funeral preparations. And it was during that preparation that a woman showed up claiming she's my mother. But the least said about her, the better.
How did you know she was your mother?
She came to me.
Did you by any means notice any resemblance?
Yes, I did. Okay. I do look like my mom so much. Yeah. After the funeral and everything was settled, my husband went back. So we went back to our normal lives. My husband coming down to spend time with us whenever he can, whenever he gets the opportunity. Now, this is where the problem is. My husband is filing for the kids and I to join him there. But for the filing process, they have to conduct a DNA test. And when the results came out, my first child is not for my husband.
The first child is not for your husband?
Yeah.
And the second one?
It's for my husband. We did the DNA test again, and it was the same results. Now my husband is broken, he's shattered. He's at the verge of committing suicide. He does not reply my messages. He does not answer my calls. Sometimes he will call on video call and you see him drinking himself to death. And at this point, I do not know what to do. I am shattered. I have regretted everything that I've done.
The 2 children, which of them does not belong to your husband?
My first child.
Your first child.
And now my husband says he's coming down to take the kids himself to the hospital to conduct the DNA test again. And now that's the problem. How do I tell? Because in my life, I've slept with just 2 men, my father and my husband, which means that my first child is for my father. So how do I tell my husband that my father is the one responsible for my child? If it were to be an outsider, it would have been easier. How do I face the world where they get to hear that I had a child with my own biological father? I do not know what to do. That is why I think the best option for me is to end.
Edio abusua entino on say innocent guy ono no nam ne ba bi no e na asem ni nyina ba bewie no so nti abusua nyame hu ye nyina mobo na afa nsu no ye mompa ye se de be ya in life no uchusu life partner yankopon bebo I believe say we no se nka nyame ba ma e bia na ka guy no benya hint kakra ama ankoba te se de e ba ya o chese guy no kra person o ye den o committee suicide money ade nti abusua nyame hu ye nyina ebobo me do si aha ye Limpopo GT e be straw se na ni de kan ni de achiema ye sra wa so be subscribe na fi wa hit notification bell no so se de be the new update bia so no ba me straw be reche wa so ye abusua akra obi bia stay safe.